and welcome to the Entertainment Gig, the Music Edition, episode 1.0, the first official music edition. On this episode, we discussed Johnny Depp being in a Biggie and Tupac movie. Also, we discussed Kanye West, Depeche Mode being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and the topic for this week is the MTV Video Music Awards. Okay, on to some news for the week. It was announced this week that the Guns N' Roses reunion tour has made over $117 million so far, which means by the time all is said and done, it'll probably top out at somewhere between $200 to $300 million. But also in tour news this week, everybody was talking about Kanye West's concert down at Madison Square Garden. They were talking about everything from the lighting rig, which went all the way through the garden. Also, the floating stage, which was awesome, not going to lie. And the fact that the concert actually started and stopped on time. So, what was missing from the concert? Not a single Kanye West rant was heard, which is awesome. So hopefully that means that Kanye's in a good place mentally now and he can actually concentrate on letting the music do the talking instead of on, Kanye simply being Kanye. Also, on a side note to the concert, he was charging $40 for a concert t-shirt. Really? $40 for a t-shirt? That's just crazy. Utterly crazy. In stranger news concerning music in a roundabout way, Johnny Depp is set to star in the movie about Biggie and Tupac called Labyrinth. Okay, two things about this. First, they really need to change that name since there's also the movie Labyrinth, which is a classic cult movie with David Bowie, Jennifer Connelly, and, of course, the Muppets. Really need to change the name. Second, knowing Hollywood, I'm pretty sure somebody thought that Johnny Depp would make either a really good Biggie Smalls or a really good Tupac. Thankfully, smarter heads prevailed. He's actually just going to be playing a detective that was investigating both of the murders. Although it wouldn't surprise me if somebody in Hollywood had actually really considered him for the role of Biggie or Tupac. And also in the news for this week, Bruce Springsteen broke his own record for the longest U.S. show in Philadelphia this past week with a 4-hour, 4-minute, and 36-second show. Just because I know you're going to ask, the worldwide record is actually also owned by Bruce Springsteen. Back in 2012, he set it at a concert in Helsinki, Finland, which clocked in at 4 hours and 6 minutes. In sadder news this week, in memoriam, we're going to pour a little out for a couple of homies. First up, South African opera tenor Johan Botha passed away at age 51 from cancer this past week. He performed all over the world, performing with everyone from the Metropolitan Opera in New York to the Royal Opera House in London. His breakthrough performance was way back in 1993 when he was cast as Pinkerton in Madame Butterfly. The man had an amazing voice and he was a true talent and he will be missed. Also, literally pouring a little out for this one in memoriam, for better or for worse, depending on your point of view, is NWA's first manager, Jerry Heller, who passed away this past week. You may not know who Jerry Heller is, but if you saw the movie Straight Outta Compton, he was the guy who was played brilliantly by Paul Giamatti. So knowing how he came off in that movie, which was relatively close to real life, depending on who you talk to, you may or may not actually miss the guy. But rest in peace, and pouring a little out for Mr. Jerry Heller. Okay, on to the topic for the week. Recently, the MTV Video Music Awards were broadcast. If you missed them, well, you weren't the only ones. Even though the awards were broadcast over 11 different cable networks, the ratings were down badly. Almost 34% under last year, which was pretty bad to begin with. Which leads to a question that I've been asking myself for the past few years, which is this. Has MTV become irrelevant? Now, it used to be MTV's bread and butter was music videos, hence the Music Video Awards. However, honestly, when was the last time they even played a lot of music videos? To be fair to them, it's not their fault. The internet has made it a lot easier for people to watch videos, so that kind of killed the main reason why people watched MTV in the first place. I mean, in my generation, music videos were appointment television. Now, not so much. But did MTV stray too far from its core mission, which was music and young adult pop culture? Sure, they cruised along for years with things like The Real World and The Hills and The Jersey Shore, but that was in a weird way sort of the beginning of the end for them, because none of those shows really had anything to do with their core mission, which was music. Now they have shows like Teen Wolf, which technically they don't anymore because they just canceled it. Now, I realize that they had to change with the times, but the cool thing about MTV was always the fact that they were the cultural bellwether for music. Hell, music is the M in MTV. So shouldn't they get back to concentrating on that? I mean, here's how bad it's gotten for music on MTV. During this past award show a couple of weeks ago, there was not one single rock performance shown. Think about that. There were pop performances with Nick Jonas, but he doesn't really do rock. I mean, they used to have things like Guns N' Roses and Green Day and Pearl Jam and Good Charlotte if you really wanted to stretch it. But we're talking about the network that wouldn't even play anything but pop and rock when it first came on, until Michael Jackson blew open the doors on that. But this was also the channel that broke hair bands, grunge, and rap rock. And yet it didn't show any rock shows this year, or rock acts, from on their own award show. Now, it's not too late for them to take back their place, at least according to me. They could go back to doing a lot more music-centric shows. They could definitely show more concerts, or even teen shows that feature musicians, or any number of things. Doesn't matter, but they need to make a decision as to who they are as a brand. They used to be the go-to for all things musically important. And as of right now, there really isn't a place for that, either on the internet or on TV, at least a brand that you would automatically trust as your go-to guide for everything concerning music. That used to be, well, MTV. They could easily fill that void again and become great again. But until then, they sound a lot more like that washed-up musician who keeps reminding you about that one hit they had way back in the day. Just my opinion. Okay, each week I'm going to make a case for a band or a musician who should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame but isn't as of yet. Now, to review the criteria for actually getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, in order to be considered, you have to be, at least if you're a performer, your first official album had to have been released at least 25 years ago. That's the main criteria just for you to even be put in front of the committee. So, with that being said, this week, in my inaugural edition, I am going to make a case for one of my all-time favorite bands, Depeche Mode. I'm just going to flat out ask it, why is this band not in? It boggles the mind. Here's their resume. Their first album was Speak and Spell, which was put out back in 1981. That's 35 years ago, which means that they've been eligible for the past 10 years now. They're considered one of the most influential electric bands of the 20th century. They sold over 100 million copies, with Violator being their peak album. It was the one with Personal Jesus, Enjoy the Silence, two of their biggest hits of all time. They were one of the biggest bands of the college goth movement back in the 80s, along with The Cure, which, let's be honest, should be another band that should automatically be in. They're also considered one of the greatest techno-pop bands of all time. Hell, VH1 has them at number 98 on the greatest bands list of all time. And One magazine even has them on their list of 50 bands that changed the world. Yet, they're not even in the Hall of Fame. I don't even think they've been nominated, to be honest with you. I realize it is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but let's be honest. They also have R&B acts in there. They have reggae acts. They have rap bands in there, for God's sakes. Why not electronic music? This definitely needs to change. Depeche Mode is my first group in my inaugural needs to be nominated edition of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Okay, time for a quick hit music review. This week's quick hit review is the new EP from the group Prophets of Rage. Prophets of Rage is, just so you know, the supergroup that has most of the members of Rage Against the Machine, minus Zach, who, just for the record, has a new solo album that's coming out soon. The group also consists of Chuck D from Public Enemy and Be Real from Cypress Hill. The EP has 2 new songs, Prophets of Rage and The Party's Over, and it has 3 live versions of Killing in the Name of, Shut 'Em Down, and No Sleep Till Cleveland, which is actually a mix of No Sleep Till Brooklyn and Fight the Power. My advice on this one, skip buying the entire album. Just buy the first new 2 singles, which are pretty good, to be honest with you, and go actually see them live, because these guys are awesome and they need to be appreciated live. Okay, digital record store time. So if you want some great deals, the Google Play Store has Prince's Purple Rain soundtrack and The Doors' eponymous album, The Doors, for 99 cents each. That's 99 cents each for Purple Rain. Come on now. That's a great way to get some great music real cheap, even if you're just trying to round out your collection. Also in the less than a buck bin is the one from Cole Swindell called You Should Be Here. Amazon Prime, which you guys should automatically get. It's cheap for the year, and not only do you get a ton of free music, but you also get 2-day shipping and the movies and blah, blah, blah. Well worth the $80 I think it's up to now for the entire year. The amount of money that you save just on the free 2-day shipping pays for your membership alone. And no, I'm not getting any sponsorship from them. Although I should. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Anywho, On the Amazon Prime, you can actually listen to a ton of new albums this week. You can get everything from John Paul White to Barbra Streisand to Wilco to Jack White to A Day to Remember, which is an awesome group. I've seen them live. You should definitely check them out. Steven Tyler's country album, Angel Olsen, and just for you teeny boppers and the ones who want to relive the boy band era, albeit a girl band, Britney Spears. New albums coming out this week are from Young Guns, Preoccupations, Elvin Stone, and Mickey Bianco. Also, there's a couple new songs that are just popping from the Chainsmokers and the new one from Lady Gaga. I've got 2 new earworms for you this week. Albums that you will definitely not get out of your system and you should automatically check out. The first one is Nothing More to Say from New York-based reggae band The Frighteners. The second one is a group that I've interviewed, and I've already said that I have a huge amount of respect and admiration for, and that is from Audio Jane. The album is A Full Bird's Wing. You can find both of them on iTunes, and also Audio Jane has the album on Bandcamp. You should definitely search both Audio Jane and The Frighteners, and Frighteners is spelled Frightnrs. That's Frightnrs. And that's it for my earworms this week. And that is it for the inaugural edition of the Entertainment Gigs Music Edition. We will be back next week, and here's my other voice to tell you all the social media breakdowns. That is it for this week's episode. Our website is theentertainmentgig.com. Our Facebook page is at The Entertainment Gig. We are on iTunes and Google Play at The Entertainment Gig, but we are also on SoundCloud at CJBT-Productions and on YouTube at CJBT Productions, which has a slideshow of my photography, which you can find on Facebook at CJBT Photography, and the portfolio at cjbtproductions.zenfolio, that's zenfolio.com. And that is it. We will talk with you next week. Take care.